Good morning. We are expecting all the other panelists. We have one seated here in the hall and floor online. So we would just wait for say 5 minutes. Hopefully the chair joins us and all the panelists join us so the session can begin. Thank you so much. Good morning. We're waiting for one other panelist and chair to join us here. We have two panelists present physically in Lagos, Nigeria. So you can, if we can wait for say 2 more minutes or 3 more minutes, so the panelists here get some slides ready. And then if chair is not here, any panelists can decide to handle this. Thank you so much. Good morning once again. Welcome from Lagos, Nigeria. We currently have all the panelists here except chair. So we're expecting the chair and in say 2 minutes, if the chair isn't online, any panelist can decide to handle the session until they join us. Thank you so much. Morning. I think we can now proceed without the chair. So please, can the panelists volunteer to begin the session and handle the session for the time being? Please. So we're having a professor from Lagos here, chair until the chair is
Morning, colleagues,
Okay.
and thank you for joining. This is session page A, right?
Yes.
And it's language, literature, and literary culture. Oh, that's better. It's classroom habits. It's language, literature, and literary culture. Then we have Michael Agbola here.
We have panelists.
All the panelists are here, apart from the chair. Fantastic. So it's not too sure of the time here. My
Time is 9:25.
9:25. Yeah, it's 9:25. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panelists. Can the panelists agree to go for 12 minutes per presentation so that we can have the remainder time for engagement? Is that fine? The colleagues online, I think we have Madam Rume. Is that fine with you?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you.
That's fine. Yeah.
How many of our panelists are online? Is it just 2 here in person?
3 are online.
3 are online. What about the others? Is Olani Reti Paladin?
Yes.
You're here. Okay. And you are Michael. No. You are Jamil. Okay. What about Louisa?
She's here.
Ebunike? Ebunike, is that fine by you? 12 minutes per person.
That's fine, yeah.
Actually, we'll be doing like 10 minutes. I'll give you a time when it's 5 minutes when you're done your 10 minutes, and when you've done 5 minutes, and then I'll ask you to stop when it's 1 minute to go. Please bear with me. I'll try to be strict because we don't have much time. And we are actually saving the time for engagement. And whatever you can't say during the presentation, you can always bring it up during the engagement. We'll now call upon Michael Agbola from Kwara State University. His topic is subaltern political conscientization in Africa. Salami Agundoye's advocacy literature. The floor is yours, Michael. Is he connected?
Yes. When is your muted? Yes. I think he has trouble connecting.
Okay, shall we move straight to the next person? We'll take him after.
He's still talking.
Is he talking?
Yes. They can't hear.
That's. Can you let me sit there? Actually,
No, the camera will
there.
not be clear.
Because I like to see what's going on there.
Okay, you can sit here.
Here is here fine.
Here.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's fine.
Okay, so that's hello, sir. Hello, Professor Agbola.
He's still connecting the audio.
Yeah, the audio. So there's a delay in your. Please send him a chat message
to say we'll take him after the next presentation. We'll take him once he's ready, after the next presentation. He's trying to speak, I see. Let's now proceed, because of time, to Louisa Uchum Egunike from Durham University. Louisa,
Yes, good morning.
good morning. The next 10 minutes are yours. Go for it.
Okay. Am I able to share my presentation on Zoom? Okay, let me just try and do that. Okay, while I just work on sharing, I'll just as I know that the clock is ticking, I'll just begin speaking and hopefully I can multitask on this. Okay, so my presentation is focused on the Mbari Club, and I'll be speaking a little bit about the work I'm doing that touches on the Mbari Club. So it's entitled Cross Text and Image, and it's my first sort of foray into engaging with the intersection of the literary and the visual in the context of the Nigerian arts. So this presentation is just a sort of a brief, very brief snapshot insight into my current project, which is a broader project, which thinks about particularly the Nigeria-Biafra War in relation to the literary and the visual. Attempt to share screen again. Okay, here we are. So this is just a couple of slides. Okay. Let's see. Can everyone see that?
Okay.
Is my slide showing? Perfect. Okay, just a couple of slides, nothing more than that. So I'm using the Mbari Club as a point of reference to think about the social, political, and artistic functions in the kind of post-colonial context, in the post-colonial Nigerian context, and the intersection, particularly the intersection of these art forms. So what does it mean when the literary and the overlap? I'm also beginning to think about this question in relation to the idea of translation. So how ideas, concepts are translated from the written to the visual and vice versa. And again, this is in the context of a national project. So it's a project of making sense of the space, contemporary reality, and using or engaging with the arts as a means of doing that. So that sort of gives you just a very loose overview of some of the questions that I'm engaging with and the ideas that I'm grappling with. So this is sort of, like I said, my first foray into this project. And so you're seeing, you know, this at the early stages. So just to provide a little bit of context when I'm speaking about the Mbari Club, it was a club that emerges, that develops in and around the time of independence. So at this point where writers and artists are grappling with nationhood, what it means to be Nigerian, what the new country, the newly independent nation looks like, many of the kind of questions around nationhood, identity, community, who is your community, these were some of the ideas or the questions that the Mbari Club, the Mbari Artists and Writers Club were grappling with and helped usher in a new moment in the nation's arts. So this idea of One Nigeria was one that emerges, if not overtly, through the work of these artists and writers. And so the first club was in Ibadan and was inaugurated in 1961, so again, just after independence. And it provided an important location for the creative expression in the recently independent nation, and provided a physical space for the visual and literary arts to converge, drawing creatives from across Nigeria, but also other parts of the continent, the African diaspora, and the wider world. Now, there aren't actually that many images of the Mbari Club, which is surprising. So the first image I showed was the outside of the club, and this is inside the club with Ulibaya, one of its founders, with other members of the club. So you had artists and writers who were sort of formal members of the club, and then others who would come and visit, maybe exhibit their work, or just be a part of the sort of social engagement. They had exhibitions there. There was a cafe there. They would have performances, plays, musical performances. So it was really a social space, and also it was open to the wider public. So you had members of the community who would also participate in its events. So it really was this sort of melting pot, this sort of experiment through which the arts played an important role in the questions that I've already alluded to. And so it was also in kind of post-colonial moment, it was centering Nigeria, centering African arts. It was in sort of global artistic space. So it was saying this is a hub for people, artists and writers around the world to converge in. And so it was very much asserting Nigeria's arts on the global stage, located in Ibadan, which was also the site of the first university in Nigeria, so an intellectual artistic space. So the Mbari Club was a catalyst for creative innovation, and the exchanges that took place led to the reciprocity of its members influencing each other's works. So whilst also providing the outlets for reaching a wider public, we have this kind of exchange. And we see this also in some of the publications. The magazine Black Orpheus is linked very strongly to the Mbari Club. And we see, you look at sort of early issues of people like Achebe's Things Fall Apart, for example, some of Wole Soyinka's works as well, you'll see often they're illustrated by members of the Mbari Club. So I think Things Fall Apart, one of its issues is illustrated by Uche Okeke, also by Bruce Onobakweya as well. So you're seeing this kind of cross-fertilization and the products of that in the works that are emerging from it. So, I mean, it was spearheaded by German academic Ulibaya, alongside the founding members Eskia Mfelele, Wole Soyinka, Christopher Okibo, J.P. Clark, Chinua Achebe. And the Mbari Club also provided, was also keen to bring in the visual artists. So artists like Damas Nwoko, Uche Okeke were invited to be part of the club soon after it started. And then there were multiple clubs opened up. The club in Osogbo is also very famous, lesser known, the club in Lagos, and also the club in Enugu. So it was really sort of branching out into different locales in Nigeria, creating these hubs for this kind of exchange.
You have 5 minutes, Louisa. Sorry to interject, you have 5 minutes.
No problem, I'll try and use it well. Okay, so I wanted to just give a little bit of background into the name Mbari and where it comes from. And the club's name emerges from or is given to the club by one of its founding members, Chinua Achebe, who drew on a particular practice amongst the Owerri Igbo, in which Mbari houses were built by local artists as a form of veneration for the earth goddess Allah. In his essay, The Writer and His Community, he explains the importance of the Mbari house. And I'm just going to skip to the quote that I have on the slide, which talks about the purposeful neglect of the painstakingly and devoutly accomplished Mbari houses, with all the art objects in them as soon as the primary mandate of their creation has been served. And it provides a significant insight into the Igbo aesthetic value as process rather than product. Process, motion, whilst product is rest. When the product is preserved or venerated, the impulse to repeat the process is compromised. Therefore, the Igbo choose to eliminate the product and retain the process so that every occasion and every generation will receive its own impulse and kinesis of creation. So the reason why I wanted just to pause on that is to think about the importance of process. And I know I don't have much time, but I wanted to make the point that this idea of becoming was particularly significant at this moment of independence, because the Mbari Club is grappling with, you know, who we are as a nation, who we are as, and the art that we produce. And I think, and it's also there's a sort of a bitter irony in the fact that the Mbari Club itself sort of begins to fracture as society itself fractures. So in 1967, with the outbreak of war, we see this club that's very much bound up with the national project also beginning to break apart, and it doesn't seem to withstand the ruptures that are happening in society. And so there's a kind of I don't want to say prophecy, but there's a synergy between the idea of the Mbari house and its crumbling and the Mbari Club and its breaking apart. And I think if we then go back to this idea of process as being more important than the physical structure, we can begin to think about what kinds of processes, what kinds of questions, experiments, ideas did the Mbari Club inaugurate in its short life, sort of between sort of 7 to 10 year existence. What kind of processes or ideas did it initiate that are then continued or are taken up in sort of a post-war context, even if the club itself didn't survive? And this can be seen in numerous collaborations, schools of art, relationships that form and forge in the post-war context, which I don't have time to go into now. But I thought this idea of process was one that was particularly important, because I think sometimes we are fixated on the physical and not the way that ideas can be born and reborn. And so just back to that idea of translation, it's again the translation of this concept into the post-war reality of the Mbari Club, and thinking about how the arts now still grapple with some of these questions. The questions also have changed and evolved, but how do we translate the experiences, the divergent experiences in a post-colonial, post-war Nigeria across the literary and the visual? So I don't think I have time to flesh that out anymore.
You actually have time up now. Your time is up, right?
How many minutes do I have?
40 seconds max.
I have 40 seconds. Perfect. So I'm happy to flesh that out more in the Q&A. I think it might have got a little bit abstract towards the end, but if people want me to give some more examples, I'm happy to do so. And I'll just end my presentation there. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Louisa. I hope anybody's not going to kill me if I go by your first names. It's so much easier after introductions have been made. We'll now find out if Michael is ready. Professor Michael Agbola, Kwara State University. Are you? Yeah, we're still seeing that you are connecting to audio, which suggests a rather sustained connection issue. So we'll move to the next speaker while we wait for that to be resolved, hopefully, before we run out of time completely. The next speaker now would be Olanireti Falade from Adekunle Ajasin University. And her paper, her paper, beg your pardon, is Deconstructing the Colonial Legacies of the Oshuka System in Ahmed Yerima's Allah, a post-colonial critique. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Prof. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Olanireti Oluwatosin-Falade, and my paper discusses, whose topic is Deconstructing the Colonial Legacies of Oshuka System in Ahmed Yerima's Allah, a post-colonial critique. Discusses salient issues concerning and about the Oshuka system. Please, would you like to? Yeah. All right, thank you. Now, before I go into my paper, I would like to premise the paper on Ahmed Yerima's introduction to Allah itself, which reads, in this new play, I returned to the Osu people. My first attempt, Othello, was trapped by the ironclad template of Shakespeare's story in his play, Othello. Now, this time, I evolved my own story with the template of my own phrases. As always, it was a painful and difficult task because the practice eats me up until I feel bitterness under my tongue. But it had to be written. Ogionu's night visit in his red and yellow bright colors one night was a confirmation of my fears as a storyteller who got too involved with the materials. So I must either be doing something right or very wrong in writing this one. Exhausted for the first time after writing a play, I lived intending producers to turn their productions into what they want the play to say. But even then, I pondered, who is the protagonist here? And when does it all end? If and when it does end in my lifetime, I may return to the sad topic again, to be consumed by its melancholy. Again, for now, it is written. Now, this article, this research, is based on the premise of Yerima's assertion that he returns to the topic of the Osu again. The Osuka system as a system is one of the numerous practices in Igbo land, which it's a process just like you have in the Indian caste system, which separates a group of people from the other. And this group of people are regarded to as the Osu, and the other, the Nwadialas, who are referred to as the freeborn. Now, one would want to question this in the 21st century. It's not like this system, and efforts have been made to eradicate this system, really. In the 1956, the late Dr. Azikwe tried to propagate a bill, which it's a bill for the abolition of the Osuka system in Igbo land. But till date, in this 21st century, you still have in existence the Osuka system. And the people's tradition is seen as a link between the people and its ancestry. And within the Igbo society, according to the CIA World Facts Book, the Igbos occupy the southeastern part of Nigeria, and their population is put to around 40 to 42 million in the year 2017. But as an age-long practice, the Osuka system allows for a marked exclusion, separation, and isolation of a particular part of people who are regarded as the other. It didn't just start up as a form of seclusion. Osu started off, according to history, Osu started off as a form of worship to the earth god, the earth goddess, Allah, where the people sacrifice themselves in the form of total devotion to the goddess. And over time, the system witnessed the inclusion of criminals who would want to evade justice, thieves, prostitutes, or people who had committed heinous crimes. And a form of evading justice, they would then say, don't worry, instead of being punished or being killed, I would rather become an Osu to be worshiping the earth goddess, Allah. And this way, the Osu as a faction became populated, became infested with criminals, thereby allowing for the other members of the society to separate themselves. Nobody wants to associate with a criminal. So the other parts of the society then decide, no, these people are the untouchable. According to, please, my slide. Yeah, thank you. The major objective of this research is to question the justification behind the continued veneration of the problematic Osu system. Not like like I said earlier, the system efforts have been made to eradicate this system. Even up to 2018, around September or November thereabouts, 2018, the traditional rulers of the Igbo society came together and said they were going to make a proclamation by December 28th of that same 2018 to abolish a total abolishment of the Osuka system. But this, up till this present, this Ahmed Allah was published in the year 2020. And he, as a writer, Ahmed Yerima is visiting this particular issue the second time in his lifetime. Then it's an issue that calls for scholarly engagement. Now, the research methods employed, I use the qualitative research methodology through historical narrations and textual analysis of Ahmed Yerima's Allah. And the purpose of the study, like I said, is to uncover the Osuka system and how it reflects and perpetuates colonial influences. Colonial now, when we say colonial, we're not intending, the paper is not intended to talk about the British colonization of Africa. No, we're talking about individual colonization of ourselves within the same Eastern community. There are some set of people that are still permanently colonized. Colonization in terms of infringements on their rights, the rights to marriage, the right to association, the rights to worship. They are still being differentiated and separated within the eastern part of the community. Now, Ahmed Yerima's Allah chronicles the dilemmas of Agboma. Agboma, who was initially a devotee of Allah, had experienced the hunger and had to go source for food for the family. In the process, she got trapped in faith, the fate of the Igwe, who was told to go and rape any lady in order to become the Igwe of the town. And Agboma was a victim. Being a victim, one would expect the ex-goddess, who is supposed to be a mother, to see that the child was a victim of circumstances, but rather, Allah threw Agboma out of her embrace. Agboma had to embrace Ekwensu, the trickster god, and who also further complicated her issues. Agboma got impregnated, and in the process of giving birth in the forest, her baby was stolen. Now, the issue surrounding Allah was woven around the child who was stolen, who is a female, and the king needs a female to wash his feet if he is to die and his children are to take the throne. He couldn't give birth to any other female child. Jelema, who was the child of the intercourse, the rape, the victim, now got married, and 7 husbands had died. She was brought to the king for execution. But because there was a blood relation, there was a blood relation, the blood will always cry out, the blood will always speak out. The king could not kill Jelema. He had to ask for the parents. And that was how the whole story was unfolded. But one would think, since there was a solution now, you now know Jelema is a princess, while Agboma is supposed to be the queen of the community. The community as a society rejected Agboma totally because she's an Osu. Despite the fact that she was the solution to the problem, she was totally rejected. And there was a part, I would also like to go back to my test again. Agboma, when she wanted to commit suicide at the end of the test, maintained that she had to kill herself because she is in the midst of a bitter society, where the society continues to kill its people, continues to isolate them. The pressure sets in. Like one of the presenters yesterday talked about a particular term which I had to ask for the meaning. He said Gen Z, and I asked for the meaning. I said, this new generation who are easily frustrated. They tell you I'm depressed, I'm this, I'm that. Agboma was depressed. Even when she thought she had found a solution in the embrace of Allah, the second time, Allah still rejected her. So I think this particular issue of Osuka system needs urgent intervention. The research ends by recommending to the government that the government needs an urgent and quick intervention into the problem of the eastern part, the Osuka system. Because in the 2018, when I mentioned earlier that the traditional chiefs of the eastern parts were coming together, they all did that by book. It was just by book. Nothing has been implemented since then till this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Olanireti, for staying on time. You completed your presentation right on time. We're still having the connection issue, so we will carry on. Our next presenter now would be Rume Badamrove from the University of South Carolina. And his topic is nostalgia and the narrative of progress in Chinua Achebe's No Longer at Ease. I think he's joining us from South Carolina, which I presume is in the United States of America. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Rume, the next 10 minutes are yours. Go for it.
Okay, I'm going to try to run through with the time. I'm just going to read through and hopefully I will be done in 10 minutes. So my topic is nostalgia and the narrative of progress in Chinua Achebe's No Longer at Ease. Nostalgia and the narrative of progress are two central themes that intersect in Chinua Achebe's No Longer at Ease. The novel, published in 1960, is set in Nigeria and is a sequel to Achebe's Things Fall Apart. The protagonist, Obi, is a young Nigerian man who has completed his education in England and returns home to Nigeria, where he is faced with conflicting cultural and personal values. In this presentation, I argue that his movement from the village to the city and back again is fueled by nostalgia for the village and the narrative of progress as constructed by the neo-colonial capitalist state. This narrative of progress is based on the notion that progress is defined as migration to the capital city of Lagos, which is seen as the center of economic and cultural development. However, as this presentation will demonstrate, the narrative of progress within the neo-colonial capitalist state is ambivalent. The concept of nostalgia is central to Chinua Achebe's No Longer at Ease as it explores the experiences of the Igbo diaspora. In the novel, the protagonist Obi experiences a strong nostalgia for his home, characterized by his obsession with returning to his native land. On Obi's first trip to his village, Umofia, the narrator states, 4 years in England had filled Obi with a longing to be back in Umofia. This feeling was sometimes so strong that he found himself feeling ashamed of studying English for his degree. He spoke Igbo whenever he had the least opportunity of doing so. This strong desire to return to his native land is typical of nostalgia. He is unable to connect with the present and becomes consumed by the longing for the past. The displacement and cultural fragmentation experienced by Obi of the impact of colonialism on the Igbo community. This longing for home is a common trait among Igbo migrants as they attempt to maintain their cultural heritage and traditions in a foreign land. This collective nostalgia serves as a way of preserving their cultural identity as they cling to their past in the face of the present. An essential way in which he manifests nostalgia is through his reminiscence of Igbo folklore. He recounts the story of the wicked leopardess who wanted to eat the young lambs of his wicked sheep. According to Jan Arod Brunvard, folklore is a traditional, unofficial, non-institutional part of culture. It encompasses all knowledge, understanding, values, attitudes, assumptions, feelings, and beliefs transmitted in traditional forms by word of mouth. Customary examples. Folklore manifests itself in many oral and verbal forms, in kinesiological forms, and in material forms. In other words, folklore is a crucial component of culture and is often the foundation upon which cultural values and beliefs are established. The traditional, unofficial, non-institutional aspect of folklore allows it to capture the essence of a culture and its people. Through the use of folklore, individuals can revisit their cultural heritage and understand the values and beliefs that have been passed down from generation to generation. Thus, Obi's reminiscence of Igbo folklore serves as a means of connecting him to his cultural heritage. In his memoir, There Was a Country, Chinua Achebe explained the significance of folklore to his childhood. My initiation into the complicated world of Indigo was at the hands of my mother and sister Zenobia, who furnished me with a number of wonderful stories from our ancient Igbo tradition. The tales were steeped in intrigue, spiced with oral acrobatics and song, but always resolute in their message. My favorite story stirred the tortoise Mbe and celebrated his mischievous escapades. As a child sitting quietly, mesmerized, story time took on a whole new world of meaning and importance. I realized, reminiscing about these events, that it is little wonder I decided to become a storyteller. In essence, Achebe sees folklore as the origin of his literary career, but also as the embodiment of Igbo culture and an element of initiation into Igbo culture. The themes present in the folklores Achebe heard as a child are reflective of the cultural values and beliefs of the Igbo people. In this sense,
you have
folklore
5
serves
minutes.
as a manifestation.
Rume,
Okay.
you have 5 minutes. Sorry
In
to
this
interject.
sense, okay. In this sense, folklore serves as a manifestation of nostalgia. It allows individuals to connect to their cultural heritage and roots, preserving the cultural memory of the community. So I'm going to move to the next part, the narrative of progress. The nostalgia of the village is paralleled by the longing for the city. Achebe depicts Lagos, the then capital city of colonial Nigeria, as the extension of the metropole. According to Obi's friend Joseph, Lagos is a place where there are cinemas, dancers, and political meetings. It is a city of corrupt civil servants with stark distinctions between the rich and poor neighborhoods. For B, this fast rising city falls below his expectations. Having heard beautiful stories about Lagos as a young boy living in a village, the returning intellectual is soon displeased by the inequality and corruption and unequal distribution of wealth in the city. This disillusionment with the city is a common experience for many Africans who have migrated to urban areas in search of better opportunities. The mismatch between their expectations and the reality of life in the city often leads to disappointment and frustration. In No Longer At Ease, Achebe uses the city as a metaphor for the larger cultural and economic changes happening in Africa at the time. The colonial influence in Nigeria brought new forms of wealth and opportunity, but also inequality and corruption. The corruption and inequality in the city are a reflection of the larger social and economic inequalities created by colonialism and modernization. Through his portrayal of the city, Achebe is critical of the ways in which colonialism disrupted traditional African societies. Onokome Ekome describes Lagos as an outpost of a former empire controlled from London. In other words, Lagos is a mimicry of London. It was imagined partly as a site for Western cultural transplantation. This distinct form of capitalism operated in the city is what Kenneth Omeje describes as neo-colonial capitalism, the lopsided division of labor between the European imperial powers and the economies of their dependent colonies during the colonial era. This lopsided division of labor is epitomized in the person of Honorable Sam Okoli. According to Obi, Honorable Okoli is part of the ministers whom the colonial government had decided to build houses for at the cost of £35,000 each. This house, which Obi describes as luxurious, is characterized by the minister as not too bad. Because of time, I'm going to skip a few lines. For those in the village, the city represents the future, a place far away, desirable, removed from the past, but a signifier of progress. Obi developed a desire to move to the city early in life. As a boy in the village of Umofia, he heard his first stories about Lagos from a soldier home on leave from war. Those soldiers were heroes who had seen the Great War. It was from one of these soldiers that Obi had his first picture of Lagos. So because of time, I'm just going to stop reading. And I'll talk about the UPU, Umofia Progressive Union, which is a diasporic organization devoted to the progress of the Umofia diaspora in Chinua Achebe's text, No Longer At Ease. So the UPU represents the aspirations and dreams of the people who seek to escape the limitations of rural life and build a future in the city. So in this paper, I argue that the UPU is the personification of the narrative of progress permeating the new colonial capitalist state, because the UPU, that is the Umofia Progressive Union, was created to facilitate progress, and what do I mean by progress? Progress as constructed by the new colonial capitalist state. So they saw progress as, moving from the village to the city or studying in the UK. So, but as I argue in this paper, progress in the new colonial capitalist state is ambivalent, because even after Obi, moves to Lagos, he travels to England and he gets his degree and he returns, he still has that nostalgia. And even when he tries to be progressive by marrying an Osu, his kinsmen try to stop him from making that advance, which he saw as progress. So the of that us with those of UPU, because progress was seen as advancement. So we see of progress in this text, the obese mindset of what progress is clashing with that of the UPU and its kinsmen. So I argue in this paper that the narrative of progress within the neo-colonial capitalist state is ambivalent, and it's constructed by the neo-colonial capitalist state. Thus, its intentions are for economic prosperity for the individual. So I'm just going to stop here because of time. We can talk more about this in the discussion. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Rume.
Thank you. Thank you very
Brilliant.
much.
You stopped right on time as well. Michael, are you able to speak at this moment? Okay, so we'll give you the last slot. In the meantime, we'll now proceed to Damilare Kainshola Jamiu. Kainshola Jamiu from the University of Ilorin. His paper is titled Public Holidays in Nigeria, Perspectives. Public Holidays in Nigeria, Perspectives from Isa Alabi's Poems. Damilare, you have 10 minutes. Do you want to wait for the slides to load? Okay, let's see. It didn't succeed too much. Maybe presentation 2? There you go.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Damilare Jamiu Kainshola, a 2022 graduate of Arabic Language, University of Ilorin. I wrote this project in Arabic language, but I'm presenting today now in English language. My topic is I divided the session into 2 parts. The first one is talking about public holidays in Nigeria, the importance of public holidays and the social political perspective of public holidays in Nigeria. While the second section is discussing about the importance of Arabic language in social political discourses and its significance. So allow me to start with the section 1, with the section 2. Hopefully to lead me to the section 1 if time still permits. So, importance of Arabic language in socio-political discourses and its significance. Arabic language as an essential language in Nigeria suffers heavy restriction from engagement in socio-political conversations with people speaking other foreign languages like English in Nigeria. Nigeria, as a country with many languages and ethnical diversifications, still enjoys varieties of contribution from all these differences on matters that concerns national unification and development. However, some components of national togetherness that could have fostered stronger patriotism suffer certain discrimination and restriction from general conversations. An example includes the socio-political perspective of public holidays in Nigeria using Arabic language. Arabic language has a long history in a very large part of what we now call today as Nigeria, what we regard today as Nigeria. Next slide, please. Yeah, okay. Arabic language in Nigeria achieved its highest status in the 19th century, when the Sokoto Caliphate adopted it as its official language of documentation and correspondence. Long before colonization, Arabic language learning and speaking has never ceased since centuries in Nigeria. As Omwik would say, usage of Arabic as a literary language and as general language of writing and communication has become more widespread. The teaching of Arabic in primary and secondary schools in Nigeria, majority areas have become commonplace. While several Nigerian universities offer undergraduate degrees and doctorates in Arabic studies. That is to say, we have many researches being done that deals with socio-political arguments and conversations that were not recognized, even with the fact that Arabic language was at a point in time in Nigerian history, the major language being spoken in Nigeria, just as English is the major language being spoken in Nigeria now. No, not this. So thorough research has brought this paper to realize how much Arabic scholars who express their ideas through poetry and music in Arabic language in important conversations of Nigerian national interests are unrecognized or marginalized. Colonization indeed has silenced the voice of those who think and write in Arabic language, even though some of them are similar literary genius, and their works have profound effects that are identical to the works of Wole Soyinka, Chinua Achebe, Ahmed Jerima, Ken Saro-Wiwa, Fela Aníkúlápó Kuti, and their likes among Nigerian English literary scholars or activists. We are unable to connect with them due to their language, But if we try to bring them into public discourse, it means that we'll be able to connect more, not only the sub-Saharan Nigerian with the northern part of Nigeria, but also the sub-Saharan Africa with the northern part of Africa, who deals with Arabic and who speaks and express themselves in Arabic language. With this in consideration, we will be able to have a more robust conversation around general discussions, because Arabic language plays a very strong significance in our society, and so are works done in Arabic language, as Arabic language is recorded as the most spoken language in Africa, with over 150 million speakers who speak as their first language, and over 1 million speakers of Arabic language are there in Nigeria. Interestingly, many words in Hausa, Fulfulde, Yoruba, Wolof, and some other African languages have background in Arabic. I should come to Yoruba. We have Albosa that we say today. Albosa means Albason. It's an Arabic word. We have Allah, which is Allah, generated from the Arabic word. We have Adura, which is Addu'a, which is born from Arabic language. We have Malaika, which is an Arabic word, and so many others in Hausa and some Arabic, Nigerian backgrounds. This, in essence, brings us back to Africa, because we will be able to connect more the perspective of English, French, and Portuguese scholars with Arabic scholars in general conversations. Nigeria has many great recognized scholars and activists in English who have talked about around certain topics. Examples like Wale Soyinka and Ahmed Yerima. But we have notable Arabic scholars like Professor Isa Alabi Abubakar, who is the case study of my research. He's written a lot of, he is a profound Islam Arabic scholar who has written a lot of things, a lot of topics on public holidays in Nigeria. He submitted a lot of articles to the development of Nigeria and the Black race in general, but his works are not recognized due to the language in which he is using to express himself. He discussed about Democracy Day, Children's Day, Workers' Day, Farmers' Day, and the June 12th that just happened. Professor Isa Alabi discussed about the June 12th. He discussed about the tsunami, not only in Nigeria did he submit his scholarship, but also extend his scholarship to foreign countries like the event of the tsunami and some other events in the global atmosphere. This work indeed has shown the global reach of the language that seems a minor in general perspective and restricted to the northern region of Nigeria and Muslim communities, whereas Nigerian Arabic scholars are doing scholarship that speaks to global events. This now brings me to the question that asks that, what is the Arabic language that was significant as the English language before colonialism neglected and unrecognized? Before colonialism, many Nigerians had written history in Arabic language before colonialism. Arabic served the purpose of establishing the first known civilization in Nigeria, which is reading and writing. The whites came and they taught with English. They introduced Christianity with English language. But Arabic suffers the fact that we were colonized with English language using the medium of Christianity. And Arabic has a relationship with Islam. So the general public regard people who speak Arabic language as Muslims. Whereas most of them are not Muslims. Most of them have origin in African languages. The major documents that has authentic facts about African history were recorded with Arabic language before colonization. So this is to tell us that if we have the privilege to bring to table the discourse and submissions of Arabic scholars on certain events, being health history, economic history, whatsoever history it is we are trying to study, if we can go into research using Arabic history, Arabic language, we will be able to have a robust outcome and output. And the wise that claims that Africans don't have history is due to the fact that history that we are written in Arabic language, and they came with English language, introducing it with Christianity. that in essence tried to sideline Arabic because we regard Arabic as language of the Muslims in challenge with Christianity. So this made all those documents that were written. I presented some that were written, medical reports of some before colonial era. Before colonial era, yeah, this is a medical report before the colonial era that was written in Arabic, and some histories that were written before colonial. So if you try to make researches or bring people who speak Arabic into conversation, into general conversation, we'll have a more robust research. So my argument is based on the fact that we can go back to history using Arabic language. We can reduce the gap that the colonialism has created within sub-Saharan Nigeria and the northern part of Nigeria, who has more of our history in hand. If we go to Kano archives, we find many of African Nigerian histories there, written in Arabic language. We don't have access to it because most of us don't even understand Arabic language. As I have said, I won't be privileged to be in this table if I had been presenting with Arabic language, but I had to translate it to English so as to be in this table. That has shown us a clear evidence that if we can introduce these scholars that have profound effect on the society, as the likes of Wole Soyinka, Chinua Achebe, and Ahmed Yerima, we would be able to have more robust conversation on certain topics, no matter what topic it might be. They have their own submission too. So in conclusion, this paper is able to argue the work my work is extended to bridge the gap that was influenced by colonialization between Arabic scholars and other Nigerian English language scholars, to show the global reach of the language that has been marginalized, to prove the significance of Arabic language in our socio-political and socio-ethnical engagement and arrangement during national conversations. Thank you and God bless.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Damilare. Is there any progress? Unfortunately, we might not be able to hear Michael because the status is still problematic. It's still saying connecting to audio.
Hello, sir. Michael, can you hear us?
He cannot, because he's not signed into audio.
He's trying to find the audio.
Hello, sir. Just Michael.
He cannot hear.
Okay, I think we have to proceed and make the most of the time available. This has gifted us over 20 minutes of discussion time. IT man, will you let me move there? I'm a teacher. Yeah, I don't know how to sit and turn my back to an audience. Maybe I'll come this side. So we have the four presenters, and I'm going to ask to us to go straight to the point with our questions or comments. 1 minute per person. Let's say 3 presentations, 3.
His resume is nice.
Okay. Yes, sir. Please, you speak to us.
He can't hear.
No, you can't hear.
Because he's not signed into audio.
That gesture might also not, it might be an involuntary gesture.
When you are not signed into audio, you know what I are saying.
He's sending a message.
He can't hear.
Oh, it's
He's not connected to audio.
okay.
Maybe you should find out.
Proceed.
Why not send him a message to log out and rejoin?
Okay. But let's proceed in the meantime. So I have a hand there. I don't take 3. Okay, let's take 4 and then another 4. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4 in the video. Then you start the next session. Set of questions, please. So you have 60 seconds with your questions. Please get to the point and let's get started. Okay. Raise your voice a bit so that the audio can catch. My name is
My name is Dr. Ikechukwu Asika, Chukwuemeka University. Falade, just 2 important things I would just want you to address. One, I One is a suggestion. I still feel like no matter how much you look at it, your topic to a reasonable extent is a bit misleading. When you say colonial legacies, I don't know, somebody might begin to think about what also has to do with colonialism, and you tried explaining that, but it is still misleading. And to save that, you could just expunge it. Maybe something like negotiating culture, or rethinking culture, the post-colonial blah 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 blah, and make away with that to save yourself that explanation that you don't mean it that way, because that was what I wanted to know. What has colonialism, did they bequeath to suitcase to system to us? And you tried clarifying that. So, and then again, Yorima, has he a position on moving forward, how we can move forward regarding this? I know he's not from Igbo, and he delved into these things that is very peculiar in the Southeast. Was he suggestive of what was his position, how we can move forward from his own perspective? And then quickly to you, I feel that you were trying to do two things. When you said a perspective of holiday from a poem, I wanted to see the poems. It was more or less from a literary perspective, the poem and how the poem has justified the issue of holiday. But you were talking about the impact of Arabic and all of that, which I feel is two papers. One should have dwelt extensively on the importance of Arabics in discussing promoting literature. Is a different paper altogether. And then suggesting poetry. So you didn't mention the Issa's poetry. We didn't say the poetry. We didn't say what holiday has got to do with it, the perspective, which was what your topic is saying. So I feel you have two topics there. You should be able to say, what do you want to do, and separate them so that it be clear. And then maybe the data you suggested, maybe I want to also know the source of your data, 150 million people speaking Arabic and making it the most spoken language in, I wanted to know your source and all of that. And okay.
It took more than 50 seconds, but I will insist on 50 seconds.
Please pass it on.
All right.
Pass it on.
Yeah, to Miss, Falade. Yeah, just want Mrs. Sorry. Okay. All right, sir. Thank you. Professor Falade. Yeah, I want to know the theoretical framework upon which your study is based, since it's actually a literary work. And then also, I believe that this Osu caste system is actually a microcosm of what's happening in Nigeria and the Nigerian reality at the present, whereby ethnic discoloration and most of other ethnic prejudice has actually dominated our literary and our political landscape. So I want to know, like, what should be our responses as scholars to this present ethnic discoloration? Now, that's that on that. While I want to speak online now to Professor Rume. Now, I just want to know that why do you have to go to? It's actually a question. I'm kind of eager to know that why do you have to go to Chinua Achebe's 1960s, no longer artist? Why is there no recent works that deals with nostalgia and the narrative of progress, particularly from Nigerians in diaspora? We have the likes of Chimamanda Adichie, Americana, and most of them like that, Chika Inugwe, and most of scholars like that, sorts of writers that happen to be from Nigeria, migrate to Nigeria. So I want to know, why do you have to delve back into the past to making use of this particular thing? And sir, the last one, sir, for yeah, so there is that if we are to say, okay, I don't want to go back to what Doc has actually raised now. So my question is that now, for instance, now there was a news that happened about 2 weeks ago, whereby I won't mention it now, another state governor had to demolish a building. Now, because based on his premise now, because when you take a drone shot, a drone view of that particular monument, I don't want to mention the name of the state now, he said that it resembles cross, so they have to demolish it because it's actually a northern or a Muslim state now. So I want to know that if he happens to use Arabic language as a means of communication now, won't it like further divide us, considering the fact that we have the Christian dominating the south and then the Muslim dominating the north? And also the second question is that, is there a difference between Arabic language and Islamic studies? Can you clarify that? Thank you.
That's your questions are okay. We are going to make the difficult to respond to the individual questions so much. So let's take one more. I need research for. Let's take one more person, then we give them a chance, and the other solution. But still try. Well, we've gone over seconds, so you have, let's say, 90 seconds.
Falade, please. You talked about Osu.
please go back and read issues about Osu. Please, because there are different categories of Osu. So that is that. Then Damilare, your data according to Doc Ben, that 1 million people have read, were speaking Arabic. How sure are you? Have you gone to the eastern part of this country? How many universities have Arabic studies in them? Because that would.
He said 140 million in Africa.
Okay, yeah, in Africa. But he spoke about Nigeria, basically speaking Arabic until the Christian came. How sure are you? Please verify your data. And our history was basically oral, not written. So note that the oral nature of our history costs issues of documentation whereby they say we don't have history. Thank you.
Okay, so let's take this three colleagues. Let's go.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Doc. Regarding the issue you raised on rephrasing the topic because it's ambiguous, using the word colonization, I would work on that. Thank you, sir. And you raised the question where you asked, what is Yerima's position on how to move forward from the issue we had around just, the Osuka system is, like Dr. just rightly said, she said I should read more because there are different factions of Osu. You have the Owu, you have the Onu, and so on. I would do that, ma'am. But, as a writer, the introduction I read, which was written by Yerima himself, said, a particular part of it said here, said, when does it all end? And if and when it does in my lifetime, I may return to the topic again to be consumed by its melancholy. This already pointed to the fact that the issue of Osu, according to this writer is a bit challenged because in his introduction to Othello, he said something. I don't have the text here, so I may not be able to quote him word for word. He said something that the issue of Osu is costing him a relationship, a friendship, and a lifetime connection. Those three words were used by Yerima, also in his introduction to Othello. And same thing here, you have another sad opening here again, which means this particular scholar is still in the dilemma. The system is not ending. And according to him, when does it all end? He's confused. Yes. Yes. Okay, sir, I will do that. Thank you, sir.
And if you allow, I think her response has shown something because part of your question was, is normal. But she has shown that, I think from what she has said, it's not an entirely Eastern issue. No, it's not. Yeah, so that's an interesting part because she's saying the writer suggests that this issue even affects him, even though he's not from the Southeastern part of Nigeria.
Yes.
No. Yes. The issue is this. Yes, that problem originates there. The Oshu system is an ecosystem. But Igbo people marry people everywhere. So for instance, he could be denied a northern Hausa person or a Delta person can be denied marriage because that person is Oshu, for instance. So the problem, I think what she's saying was
she said there was the result is not for
yes.
Okay, if your question is answered, that's fine. Then I don't need to intervene. I'm coming. We'll come to you. Is that a follow-up point? You can make it, please.
Yeah, I'm saying that it was not really applied to strangers. It is within that community. Because in that community, they have a barrier. People.
Yes,
When you don't stand up it is very effective. Like you were a stranger, but you are not arrived.
Okay, I'm on colleagues. I think you are missing a point. Your question is opposite. What's his position?
Yes.
But I think I'm missing a point from what she has said. Or maybe the college, or maybe the point I'm making is this. Okay, I'm from Delta State. let's assume that my son wants to marry an Igbo girl. And our Igbo friends tell us that girl is also, it becomes my problem. That's the point I'm making. Yeah. So these issues are not limited to the society.
Yes. And according to Professor Yerem, the same point Prof just made is what is Yerima's stand. Because according to him in his Othello, it's costing him a lot of lifetime investment and positions. So that is the stand on the Osu case. And like Dr. rightly pointed out, I'll try to do more research on the Osu. And Prof also pointed out, said, what should we as scholars do, and what should we do to expunge this issue from society? The best we can do, like Prof pointed out, there are people who are not from the eastern part. Achebe, who is of blessed memory, is supposed to be a mouthpiece now in the literary world between the eastern part and other parts of the country. In his position, in no longer at ease, according to Professor Rume, its position is no longer at ease. At the end of the play, Clara aborted the pregnancy, who was supposed to be the transposition between the past and the future. Clara aborted that pregnancy, and Obi never married Clara. So this issue is still there. As writers, all we can do is to give voice to the voiceless in the society. And it is left for the society to reason with scholars and then think of what to do. But we'll keep talking about it until we see a change in the society.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's Damilare respond to the question.
Thank you for the privilege. Actually, because it seems as though you gave me more avenue to actually say some things I was unable to say during the presentation.
Yeah.
The time I was given was 10 minutes, and what I prepared for, what is inside of here to present, you could see many slides, over 10 slides were skipped. I was trying to draw the network from the importance of Arabic language. If we try to bring them down to general conversations, example, public holidays in Nigeria. Because public holiday is a certain way in which we can study our history. Because it's not about that day, it's about the event of that day. We are celebrating June 12 of 1993 in 2023. Those who weren't born in 1993 had the privilege of learning about 1993 because we now celebrate that June 12 in 2023. Most people who don't know about November 10, 1995 with Ken Saro-Wiwa, if they studied well, if time didn't permit me, if I was given the privilege, I would have talked about Ken Saro-Wiwa. If avenue were given to mark Ken Saro-Wiwa's day in Nigeria, many people would have known more about Ken Saro-Wiwa. Maybe the problem of the Ogoniland people and the share would have been resolved by now if Ken Saro-Wiwa Day had been celebrated today. But that is what I'm trying to arrive at using Arabic language. Arabic scholars submitted articles, writings, poems on this topic, on Ken Saro-Wiwa and on MKO Abiola, but we don't know about it. So that is my work at first. So going back to the question, to the source, if you check the slides, if I don't know if you can help me go back, if it's possible, I would show you evidences, because this research has a background in Ilorin Emirates Archive. One, it has in the University of Ilorin Arabic Language Archive. It has in the book of Sheikh, yes, see, these are books, like 4 or 5 books written in Arabic that tell story of.
Can I interject, please, Damilare? Don't be offended. Okay. I think there is a specific fact you mentioned that the colleagues want you to substantiate, and I'll tell you why. When you said 140 million Arabic speakers in Africa,
150
yes, there's what we know as a cultural studies scholar myself is the most spoken languages in Africa. That one they speak in Western Swahili.
Swahili.
Swahili. Yes, Arabic, Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo.
You didn't even mention one of that follows Swahili.
Yes, I'm not giving you the hierarchy.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, and I'm not come across any source that indicates 140 million for Arabs myself. So it's new to some of us in the room. So if you can point to a source that, but you don't have to do it right now. You don't have to. But that's what.
Let me say something on that.
Yeah.
What we are getting wrong is that Arabic is a foreign language, not a native language of Africa.
Yeah.
Swahili, Wolof, Yoruba, Hausa, all these ones, they are language spoken, they are language native language of Africa. Arabic is a foreign language in position of in the same position as English. Easily for you, if you go into Google search now and search most spoken language in Africa, they will bring you Arabic and give you the data in details.
Okay,
language
all right.
in
Let's,
Africa.
Did you intentional analysis of those points?
Definitely.
No, that's another question.
Okay, I will answer. Yes, I'm still on the team. I'm answering the question. I have like 5 questions.
Okay.
Just please.
Okay.
So,
I don't have much time. You must understand one thing in academic practice. You made a presentation. It is our job to ask questions about the presentation. And it's your job to answer the questions. You either have the answers or you don't have the answers.
Yes,
you don't tell us to go and do it. Because when we came here, no, it's not that kind of thing. You are the experts. You are the expert of your paper.
Yes.
And we learn from you. So if you are telling us something that we don't quite understand or that contradicts what you just did, our job is now to ask you and then you reassure us. But it's not a problem. We are all human beings. Nobody knows it all. We get questions. I was okay. That's okay. I'll check that. I'll work on that. It's not fine. You just don't
Okay,
it now. Yeah. You just don't it. And it says apart from English, French is the most widely used language. Okay, colleagues, let's yes. Hold on, colleagues. That's interesting, but as scholars, we cannot take that. Just as we cannot take what he said. Yes. This kind of information has to be rigorous, has to be verified. Everybody puts information on the internet. Everybody puts information. Okay, colleagues. But what is important, what is positive, what is productive about this engagement is that these are contested ideas. Yes. They cannot be just thrown out and accepted at face value. Okay. We have a question for Rume, and we also have Louisa there, who I have a question for, and we also have colleagues who have questions. Let's allow Rume. The question from yes, you just read this question. Let me read it. You don't need to respond immediately. This for that. I want to know how you define decolonization, because Arabic language is never an African language. Is your paper addressing decolonization or setting Arabic language against the English language? Why are we deliberating between English and Arabic languages when we should discuss how we can center our indigenous language? That's a brilliant question as well. I also had that in mind. Okay. Let's now give the room a chance to respond to the question about why he went to no longer at ease. I have a question for Ruben as well, if you will allow me. My question is one on the issue of the African diaspora. Don't you use that? I'm a bit confused by how you use the term. Do you mean the Umuofia diaspora outside Umuofia in Nigeria in the novel? Or are you talking about the African diaspora in the world? Because diaspora is often used in reference to people outside their now states, countries. There's a term that might be useful for you here. Somebody has tried to theorize what we call the quasi-diaspora or the pseudo-diaspora. That is people who leave their African homes and move to another African setting. And they are not outside Africa, because diaspora often connotes Africans outside Africa. It's just something for you to think about. But my real question is about the progress. Because you repeatedly say the narrative of progress defined, there's a point where you said defined by the post-colonial Nigerian state. Is that not really a Euro-modernist narrative? The progress, the capitalist idea of progress. Is it not a narrative foisted on post-colonial state? Is it one generated by the post-colonial state? The floor is yours, Roman.
Okay, I'm going to respond to the first question. Someone was asking why I didn't choose a contemporary text. I'm going to try my best to answer the question. But first of all, my name is Rume, not Professor Rume. I'm a student. So the reason I chose the text is simply because I work mostly on 20th century literature, particularly Francophone African literature, but I just chose this text particularly for this conference. So, and to the next question, someone was asking about the narrative of progress. And thank you for making that correction there, talking about the word diaspora, using pseudo diaspora instead of diaspora. Thank you for making that correction. So can you repeat the question again, talking about the narrative of progress? Like what were you trying to?
Okay, if you don't mind, I can send you that as a private question. I have your email address.
Okay.
Because we have a very short time left, and there are colleagues who indicated that they want to ask questions. And we also have to take a question to Louisa. The question I'd like to pose to Louisa is the ways in which is she thinking of the Mbari Club? I like what you said about the focus in the Mbari artistic process as a focus on process rather than finished product. Then you now say the product is allowed to disintegrate because the attempt is to put attention on the process. If we take that as a metonym for post-colonial state, are we suggesting that we want the state to disintegrate? Is it our goal that the state disintegrates, that we don't want to see a finished product? That's something in the air. But there's a question from a colleague who raised their hand. Please add it to the tray, then we'll let the colleagues respond, and then we'll close. Yes, you've been wanting to ask the question. Unfortunately, it's the last question.
I just want to achieve something to speak on also. The Yarima lab book that you read to us, Yarima we know is not from the East. They didn't mention any specific community in the book he was talking to. He did not. Because what I'm saying is because practically Osu system finds operates in the East among the Igbos, but not all the communities practice it now. Some communities have abolished the Osuka system. So maybe in your paper, try to put some of those communities.
Yes.
Add it there, and then you have to read. Yeah, because some of them don't practice it, unlike some other places. Yes. It's been abolished totally. They don't even practice it.
If it's on that, we have
Oh, okay.
So we can carry the conversation.
Oh, okay.
But let's give Louisa a chance. And any of we'll give Louisa 2 minutes, and any of the presenters, maybe one of the presenters 1 more minute to make my announcement. Louisa, over to you.
Yes, thank you for that question. So the nature of process that I was referring to is artistic process. It wasn't a commentary on whether the nation itself should separate. The comparison I was drawing was the Mbari setting, and the fact that the physical structure wasn't the main point of value, it was the process of creating that was of value. And the sort of irony that the Mbari Club, although that wasn't the thinking behind the formation of the Mbari Club, the fact that it also, crumbled, it fractured, it was an interesting point of reference. And the reason for saying that was, in as much as the Mbari Club doesn't exist in the same way that it did, the sense of artistic process that initiated is still in existence. And so not to see it as a complete loss, but actually as the ushering in or the initiation of forms of collaboration and artistic practice that both recognizes an artistic heritage and tradition that's important in an understanding of the country, but also with nationhood is never a complete, nationhood and national identity is never a complete task. It's always being formed and reformed. So it was a way of thinking through the importance of process, both in artistic practice, but also in the formation and fostering of identity and senses of self. It's never a complete task. And so when we're thinking about the contemporary, we know that, you know, what it means to be a Nigerian now looks different to what it meant to be a Nigerian independence, at independence, during the war, kind of appreciative process in that.
Thank you very much, Louisa. Colleagues, we sadly have to end this very exciting conversation at this point. As we can see, there's a power outage and the IT people need to save their batteries. We want to thank Ude Ugo and Olufela Yes, who have assisted us with the IT. We want to thank all our presenters. We want to thank you, Ruben. We want to thank you, Louisa. Even though we couldn't get Michael to speak to us, I want to thank you, Damilari. I want to thank you, Larry. Everybody's a professor in the conference. So, so that's the point. We are all professors here. So it really doesn't matter. But thank you so much. And thank you, Michael. Thank you, colleagues. We should.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so Jamila is she's you have to speak. Yeah.